Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Broxton, and welcome to the first Penn webinar of the academic year. Thank you so much for joining us. As you may know, this webinar series touches upon how multidisciplinary applied research can be used to make community impact and improve the human condition. Specifically, today, we will be taking a look at the Partnership for Inclusive Innovation's flagship community research program, the Georgia Smart Communities Challenge, and its impact on communities across the state. When municipalities experience 21st century challenges that require strategic planning, the Georgia Smart Communities Challenge is an award-winning program that assists leaders in identifying solutions that are researched, tested, and evaluated by subject matter experts. Often referred to as simply Georgia Smart, this community research assistance program empowers communities on their journey to innovation by helping them to envision a smart and connected future. This program has served 20 communities across the state of Georgia, helping to activate over 140 technologies and facilitate over 30 community engagement meetings. Alumni of this program have gone on to experience wide-ranging success, including recognition on a national and international scale. Today, we are sharing a recording of a panel featuring Brian Brainerd from the City of Savannah, Dr. Forrest Tolley from the Columbus Consolidated Government, and moderated by longtime Georgia Smart partner Brian Wallace from the Georgia Municipal Association. These Georgia Smart project leads will discuss what they accomplished during their initial Georgia Smart funding and their plans for project continuation as they embark on the partnership's alumni program. This video will begin momentarily, but don't forget to stay with us throughout the webinar. At the end, we will discuss the 2022 Georgia Smart awardees, as well as information about upcoming opportunities to participate in community research with the partnership.
Great, thank you. My name is Brian Wallace. I'm with the Municipal Association. I'm pleased to be here today to talk with a couple of cities that are doing some innovative work, that have already been doing innovative work, and through the efforts of Penn and the Georgia Smart Communities program. So often, a city or a county, they've gotten these Georgia Smart grants, and they start that project, but when that project ends, it can continue. Either that project or the city or the local government wants to do something more. And so we're excited today to have a couple of cities up here. We got Forrest Tolley, who's with the Columbus Consolidated Government. He's the director of IT. And we have Brian Brainerd, who's the senior planner with the Savannah's Housing and, what's the full name?
Neighborhood Services.
Housing and Neighborhood Services, to talk about a couple of projects they're doing. But besides having a project in the past, they are now part of the alumni program through Penn, so they got some additional projects going on, and so, which is really exciting for us. And so I'm going to give a quick review of what's been going on in Columbus and Savannah. So in Columbus, the initial project was funded in 2019, 2020 to develop smart technologies for their uptown district to promote safety, security, and intelligent transportation systems. Now for their alumni project, they are working with Georgia Tech faculty and students and will work together to create a citizen safety digital twin to provide the city with a real-time water search and rescue system that is both scalable and also potentially other cities that are on rivers can use in the future. And then for Savannah, their initial project was funded to look at applications for emerging data analytics and machine learning techniques. That sounds very over my head. But to leverage existing city data to look at the best strategy to deal with vacant and blighted property in their community, which is a huge issue for cities of any size, but especially a bigger city like Savannah. And so going forward for their 2022-23 alumni project, they will be working with Georgia Tech and Georgia Southern students to conduct a social infrastructure mapping, which sounds really interesting, to look at the recreational facilities and other community centers such as churches and other facilities in order for the city to understand how those services are being, how the community is being served, and if there's gaps that can be addressed. So, I want to start with both, with Forrest. The question for both of you, we'll go with Forrest first, is just overall, what are some of the challenges that you are facing that led you to even apply for a Georgia Smart grant in the first place a few years ago?
Well, is my mic on? Hello?
Push it up. Yeah.
There, it was up. Hello, hello?
Here's technology.
How about now? How about now?
Here you go.
Well, the big thing is the name of the term SMART. The biggest thing that all communities, I think, need is more brain power. And one of the things that the Smart Communities Grant offered us was an opportunity to work with Georgia Tech. And as everyone knows, Georgia Tech's one of the leading technology schools in the nation. And we felt that it would be good to leverage that kind of intellect to help us solve problems that we may have and pilot things that we needed extra expertise in. So when we were really looking at it, we were looking at it as a community, a partnership with a higher ed organization that was stellar in performance for the nation's level. So Smart Grant, Smart Students, Georgia Tech, it kind of all fed in together, and really that's what we were looking for, is more expertise.
Brian?
For the City of Savannah, I'm a neighborhood planner, and urban planners use a lot of data. We've used HUD census data for many years, and as these data sets have grown bigger and bigger, we have more opportunities to actually help identify those hidden trends and factors that impact what you see. So, you know, for instance, a vacant and blighted property has hidden features behind it that cause those effects. And so being able to do a more systems-wide analysis of the data that we have available to us allows us to help identify factors that allow us to classify various types of issues and help to identify the correct solution that is most likely going to be able to alleviate the problem we're trying to address. So it's the Georgia Tech program was an opportunity then to, you know, apply that emerging field of data science and analytics along with machine learning to be able to look at big data sets and help uncover those trends and issues that were of interest to us.
Now, Brian, you're a planner. Before that, you were a journalist, right?
Yes, so they're not unrelated. I was actually a photojournalist. I still am because it comes in useful every day. And so, you know, as a journalist, I worked in cities, and you see, you know, the three terms I've heard a lot today that really resonate with what we're doing is innovation, technology, and community. And this was really a chance to bring all of those things together. And a lot of the innovation that can be assisted with technology may just be new ways to collaborate with our community. So some of the outcomes that we've had from our program have been strategies to increase collaboration with citizens and let them drive some of our solutions and let them use data that is now available to them to help figure out what can be done locally in their neighborhood, on their block, to address issues that they're facing.
I'd be curious, again, you're a planner in your planning department, you had these issues that you're starting to face, but you're not an IT guy. So how did you think smart cities, there's a smart city solution, or we just need help, and how did you go about that in your city? Did you reach out to your IT department how did all that work?
I wish we had an IT department at the time. We had no IT director for 2 years, which probably allowed us to do some things and initiate some projects that were really driven by the department, the Housing and Neighborhood Services Department. And so recently we've gotten a new IT director, and they've implemented some technologies to help build on what we're trying to do. And our department is, the chain of command within cities sort of naturally wants to silo data, and urban planners need data from across all the divisions of the city. We use everything from crime data to tax collection data to housing quality standards and code enforcement data to the demographics of those local neighborhoods. And so so we're sort of a catalyzing effect for the city to help drive those initiatives, because we're creating the demand to access the data and the tools necessary to use it.
Thank you. And Forrest, you made an interesting comment about data being siloed at times. And so as an IT director at supporting all the departments across a city, and you start looking at these, what we, quote unquote, smart city solutions, I mean, what's been your approach in Columbus in dealing with that?
Well, one of the benefits Columbus has is being a consolidated county city government, and all of IT runs through IT, which is probably a strange thing for most city county governments. So all the everything he mentioned, from the taxes to the all the planning, the crime data, all of that runs through the IT department in Columbus. So one of the benefits of being consolidated is the fact that we don't own any of the data, but we have access to all of it, so we can help our planning department, our inspections department, codes, sheriff, police departments with their data sets. So having it all together, one of the things that we try to do is to integrate it all so that they can make heads or tails out of their data.
Thank you. Let's stay with you, Forrest. On the previous project that was funded, can you just very briefly kind of tell us what was accomplished with that grant that you received?
Well, the big thing, and I'm going to save it for a two-part, there were a lot of technical things accomplished by Georgia Tech. They helped us with a lot of the behind-the-scenes algorithms for the basic thing that we were looking at was the streets. So, you identify people crossing streets, cars crossing intersections almost hitting people, stuff like that, and how well you could identify things like that for public safety. And so basically what we started to do was we put up sensors, and one of the questions that I was told kind of beforehand, but our sensors are 3G, and we know that the 3G sensors go out like next week. So one of the things that we have been doing was we use that data, but that data really taught us so you can take a certain amount of knowledge and then you can apply it to the next thing. And that's kind of what the first project taught us, is that we gained a lot of insight, we gained some algorithms, we gained some relationships with Georgia Power and other groups, because we had to do what we could do, but then we also learned our lesson on certain things that go obsolete. But the big takeaway is that the background, and we'll show later, the background of what we learned, we were able to use a first or pre-project for the second alumni project. So, and that'll come in a few minutes.
Thank you. And Brian, the same question, just very briefly, what was accomplished with that first project?
Well, the first project was really sort of a proof of concept. So, we first of all, we learned a lot about what you can do with data, and we thought I thought, well, maybe we can use this in sort of a big data approach, but it turns out that the data sets we have in the city are actually fairly small. And so, for instance, to develop an algorithm and use machine learning to help us identify and classify vacant, abandoned, and disinvested properties, our PhD student working with us created a model instead of a big data analytic approach, and then using humans in the loop to train that model. And so it's a little different from what you'd expect and what I expected when I had done my basic research about data analytics and big data, that the approach was a little different than I expected.
Great, thank you. Let's touch on not the IT part of this, the technology part of this, but working with the community and other stakeholders. And again, I work for the Georgia Municipal Association that represents cities in the state. So I'm very interested in about the elected leadership. And was there buy-in? Was it difficult? Did they understand it? Was there any roadblocks? And Forrest, I'll start with you.
Well, again, a benefit of being a consolidated county is we did have everyone on board, and that's everyone from our public safety to Homeland Security, sheriff, police, the mayor, city council. The way our city government runs, we have to actually go to council, get their buy-in before we can start a grant project. So as far as the elected officials, they were very, very enthused about it. The downtown area, which we started in, our uptown area, they were very enthused about it too. We've got a lot of the top business people in that area came and gave us some input. And in the last meeting about the new alumni, the same thing. And the new one, since it's river safety, it's really been there's been conversation at council about it, because river safety is a big thing when you're trying to draw tourists into the whitewater rafting courses that we have. And it's also a concern for our public safety officials who have to go out and monitor the river. So getting the buy-in, that's one of our big tourist draws. So it was kind of easier, I guess, when it's a big tourist draw and you want safety. So everybody coming into Columbus is thinking safety, and you don't want too many mishaps on the river, because then that would hurt the economics of the downtown.
Thank you. And Brian and Savannah, what was how did it go there on the engagement part?
Well, the engagement with city leadership was a natural fit, because a lot of what we're trying to do is related to equitable development, and that's very high on the agenda now with our city leadership. The challenge is actually discussing what we're doing and getting the elected leaders to really kind of wrap their minds around how that applies to their goals. And so the messaging was always a challenge in terms of, how do we want to explain what we're doing to the elected leaders so that they can frame it in their conversations in terms of the bigger picture, in terms of government policy.
But you must have been successful with that.
Yeah, so I think it worked out very well.
Great, thank you. So stay with you, Brian. What are you hoping to accomplish kind of in this next alumni round?
So one of the challenges in terms of my chain of command, if you will, was managing my boss's perception about what the outcome would be of this. There was a perception that surprised me that they expected maybe just a turnkey, market-ready model, when what we're doing is really trying to innovate and experiment and be willing to fail. And being willing to fail is not really an option in city government. So whatever you do, you have to kind of frame it in terms of progress and a success. But that said, we did do that, and the goal now is to try and do a more operationalize the model that was developed so that we can deploy it within the tools we have. So the blight model was done with data science tools using R or something like that. And I work in GIS systems, so being able to get that deployed into our ArcMap system is one of the goals for this project at hand right now.
Great, thank you. And Forrest, the same question. What are you hoping to accomplish in the alumni project?
Well, let's go from where we were, and after we finished our first pilot, and we did frame it always as a pilot to see what we could use. We never framed it as a finished product. We, as a city, have gone to, so our camera systems, to being able to support the IT department now. They saw some value in the intelligence of cameras, and to the point of putting in 1,800 plus cameras and tag readers and other things to help with public safety. And that project's already underway. It wasn't a direct result of the previous one, but its success is really hinged on the fact that my staff was engaged in the previous project and learned all the things they needed to know to deploy this for the city. So that was like the in-between step. And then everybody, you say, how do you get your lawmakers to understand? We were sitting on the Riverwalk, and Georgia Tech, right there, they just decided, well, let's just take a video of the river. We got some rafters in the river, and the guy between them is the guy that wrote the algorithm. And so we have an iPhone, we're taking a picture of the river, and we go, let's just drop it in the algorithm from the previous grant, and let's just see what it does. So could you play that real quick? And you kind of can see what we're working on. And I'll tell you when to pause it if we can. Okay, pause that. Run just a hair more, because I won't, right there. We have, if you notice between, there's someone in the river, and it actually can identify that someone fell out of the raft. Now this was the algorithm for walking down the street algorithm. And we just said, well, we'll just throw it in there. Notice it's going to talk about that car up on the hill too. It's going to identify these things as we go. So go ahead and play the video. And, uh-oh, I guess we didn't want it. So you can kind of see, and it tells what percent. So there's a boat, there's a car, there's a boat, there's somebody in the water that's not in the raft. This is part of the rapids, and you can see that person there. In a few seconds, you'll see a bird fly by. It's going to say, yeah, it's a bird. And you would say, well, that's obvious. But remember, this was the walking down the street, crossing the intersection algorithm. And so basically what we found was we were about 50-60% successful on a previous algorithm. Well, we weren't. Georgia Tech was. And we plan to use that. And of course, you see the trees make a difference. You can't see behind the tree. And then it likes that rock. It keeps saying that rock's a person, but it's really not. And we can really pause there. But I think you've seen the benefit of the previous project, future project. So our future project, we're trying to identify what we want our the fire department actually does this, and the Homeland Security does this in conjunction with Georgia Power. They have dams on the river that actually help control the flow of the whitewater during the day, so that we have easy rapids all the way to the class 4 rapids because of the release from the dams. But what we want to try to do is let the public safety people know when you ought to look at something. So we're in the process, and we do have cameras on the river. This was taken with just an iPhone, just looking at the river. But our hope is that we can identify areas of concern, and we've already met with public safety. And a lot of the things we didn't think about is they need to know the last known spot of someone in the river, and they also need to know, were they recreation like this? Did they have guides? And I think that kind of shows you how you can go from one project. We put in the public safety cameras, 1,800, and now we're going to look at the river and see if we can have it intelligently identify issues so that we can put our safety people on the river only in times when they need to be, because it puts their lives in jeopardy too to go make a rescue.
So that was really interesting. So is the goal of that, be some type of alert that would go out, some type of notification to the police or fire. You don't want someone just watching that all the time. You want some type of indication, right?
Correct. So the hope is that we can make it intelligent enough to where it would alert them, and then they can look real time at the video, see if there's an emergency. Also, if it gets reliable enough, we would even think that you might could have drones go out there, maybe drop life saving devices, and or maybe even talk people through it. So we're looking at that kind of thing as a possible future. But right now, it's just basically it would give an alert, and then it would give them one more area to, and then they can look at it real time. And that's really important to see, because later on in that same video, you see the person get out of the water and they're safe. Whereas if you never saw them resurface, then you would know you had a problem.
Great, thank you. One last question for both of you. We'll start with Brian. It's just, what advice would you give to cities, city staff, elected officials possibly, as well as researchers, if they want to consider moving forward with something that we would consider a smart cities type of project?
Well, I can't avoid mentioning the benefit of having an integrated data system like Columbus has, because that is a huge barrier for us. And I'd love to hear if there's anything still that you haven't integrated, because we have all kinds of legacy systems. We have county data that isn't accessible to us. And so that's one of the biggest barriers for us to really be able to fully utilize data across the city. And so that's my dream anyways, is to have our IT get to that point. And they're just now looking at basically we piloted a data warehouse concept, but from where we're at right now to getting to the point where you would actually have a fully functioning data warehouse that's connected to all our systems, pulling in data on a daily basis so that it can be accessed by the data analysts, that seems like years away.
Thank you. Forrest?
Just to Brian's, we are not 100% and never will be. Our goal is to continue to try to integrate the data more and more and more and more. And because even with our camera systems, you have public safety, and you have parks and rec, and you have garbage collection. So those are three different sets of users, but that is integrated. But some of our stuff isn't as integrated, but we're trying to all the time integrate, and we're looking into an ODS, Operational Data Store, for that kind of information. The original question, though, was?
Just what advice would you have to other cities and elected officials or staff or even researchers as they consider taking on a smart city project?
Make sure you have friends or connections in other cities. We used Make and Bid. We use people in Savannah. Unfortunately, the IT director there left. We use, and I say use, we interact with Augusta and similar cities that have some of the same issues. Augusta, Savannah, Macon, Columbus all have river walks, and we're all about the same size. We have some of the same issues. So my advice is to go ahead and pre-partner with the communities that are similar to you, and then don't be afraid for them to tell you that some of the things you're doing aren't the smartest things in the world, and listen to them when they tell you, well, we tried that, and you may want to not try that. Because I leave one of the things, but the best conference or best session I've ever been to at a conference was where I learned what not to do. And sometimes we forget that if we partner with enough people like us, as far as cities, and learn from them, we don't have to go through millions of dollars to wind up with nothing. So that would be my advice. Partner often, and partner with groups that have some of the same interests that you do.
Great, thank you. I believe our time is up. Great, thank you.
Alrighty, so thank you so much to our panelists, both for their presentation at the announcement event and for allowing us to use this footage to share with today's wider audience. Looking forward, the Georgia Smart program recently announced the projects selected for the program in 2022. Congratulations to the City of Atlanta, the City of Warner Robins, Athens, Clarke County, and Henry County for their research and their research partners at Georgia Tech, Clayton State, UGA, Augusta University, Kennesaw State, Morehouse, and Middle Georgia State. You can get a little snapshot of what the City of Warner Robins will be doing this year on this slide. They're going to build on their previous work to refine an interface that enables the police department to visualize where crimes are predicted to occur and suggest placement of license plate readers to detect them. If you're interested in this kind of digital twin public safety work, we're going to be featuring a PEN webinar next Thursday at noon on that project, on phase 1 of that project. So please join us. The City of Atlanta is going to employ innovative diagnostic techniques that hold promise for achieving significant cost savings compared to traditional building energy auditing practices in the Thomasville Heights community. Henry County is going to develop the Henry County Smart Resilience Decision Support Tool, which will be an interactive web-based tool designed to assist county planners, policymakers, and county officials assess and explore the impact and potential of new green space, warehousing, and freight-related infrastructure projects. And Athens Clarke County will be a community-based climate resilient intervention study that leverages the deployment of transportation and communications technology to prevent community harm caused by extreme weather events. So all 4 of those projects are focused around the theme of smart resilience. So we're very excited for the 2022 cohort to see what they will be doing over the next year. So please make sure you stay involved with the partnership to see how those projects go. Just really quickly, here's a short video from the announcement event that captures comments about the 2022 Smart Resilience cohort from the partnership and the project representatives.
We can't do anything by ourselves. We all have to do these things together, and I think we see and we witness the fruit of that collaboration. Language matters, and when you hear language like collaboration and language like partnership and language like smart and innovation, it speaks to how important and how you get things done today.
We really believe in the power of a cohort where a community of researchers and communities come together. They might each have different projects, but by sharing and learning, it's not where the researchers are coming in with the answer in mind, and it's not where the communities are coming in with a specific solution. They are actively working together to innovate, to engage, and to think about what are the best solutions that can drive increased quality of life for all citizens.
We, the City of Warner Robins, are grateful for the partnership we have enjoyed with the esteemed professors of Georgia Tech and the ecstatic about the success of our digital twin for public safety to date.
We are partnering with Georgia Tech School of Architecture and the nonprofit Focus Community Strategies. We have a long partnership with Thomasville Heights, so we're excited to be able to work with them in this new endeavor. This project identified the Thomasville Heights area where we are currently supporting a neighborhood stabilization and community development plan to address the changes resulting from historic disinvestment and gentrification pressures.
Something that resonated consistently among citizen feedback was the challenges with unplanned growth that was happening in the county. So when the county and us put our heads together, we figured that a smart solution to this challenge would be to create a smart growth tool or a decision support system that would help Henry County with our planning efforts in better accommodating and balancing economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and social sustainability.
A lot of the ways that disaster epidemiologists like myself tend to approach preparedness is to look really just at recovery responses. So this project implements technology, communication, and transportation interventions to communities to rethink what our disaster playbook looks like, to reposition resources in effective ways, and ultimately ensure neighborhood health for communities in an area of Georgia that are experiencing really dramatic changes.
Let's again congratulate the community research teams in the city of Warner Robins, the city of Atlanta, Henry County, and Athens-Clarke County. We look forward to the impact your projects will have on advancing smart resilience in your communities.
Alrighty, so here on this slide, you can see a few examples of projects that the partnership has helped to support over the last 5 years and how they have impacted communities across the state of Georgia. Our team is always looking for ways we can help to support yours. One way we hope to reach you is our upcoming Pinnacle Symposium. This event, tentatively scheduled for October 28th, will help to bring together faculty researchers from higher education institutions and municipalities across the state to share a lightning talk about their research projects and areas, hear from communities about their challenges and needs, and then form research teams to create project proposals for seed funding from the partnership. This interactive virtual event will allow researchers from diverse universities and disciplines to workshop ideas for impactful and innovative community research projects together and pursue funding for their idea as an outcome. If you are a community representative who is interested in presenting at the symposium and potentially matching with a research team to apply for our seed funding, please reach out to me. Similarly, if you are a faculty researcher in any higher education institution in the state who's interested in applied community research, please reach out to me as well. With that, I would like to say thank you so much for attending this week's Penn webinar. Our next webinar will be held on September 29th and will feature panelists on Smart City Digital Twinning in Warner Robins, Georgia. If you are interested in digital twinning, public safety, or smart cities initiatives in Middle Georgia, you will enjoy this panel, so don't forget to register. Finally, you can always check our website, penngeorgia.org, for more information about our upcoming events, as well as follow us on social media at Penn Georgia. Our Penn webinars are always posted to our YouTube channel, so don't forget to tune in there if you miss a webinar. We look forward to seeing you soon.